Some memories from childhood sit in the mind like glass shards, small, sharp, and impossible to touch without drawing blood. This one is mine. I was 6 years old, in first grade, still so trusting, still so careless with the world. It was a Friday night, maybe Saturday. All I knew was there was no school the next morning, and my friend's mom had arranged a birthday party at the local bowling alley. Balloons bobbed from the chairs, pitchers of soda lined the plastic tables, and we had 2 lanes to ourselves, kids in one, parents clapping and chatting in the other. I remember feeling out of place almost immediately. Bowling wasn't my thing. Every time I rolled the ball, it wobbled, guttered, and left me fighting tears as the others laughed. Eventually, another kid started taking my turns for me, which only deepened the sulk. My mom was distracted, talking with the other parents, and my complaints went unheard. So I wandered. The alley had a back room set aside for the party, a space heavy with the smell of frosting and popcorn. Plates, stacked with cupcakes, waited on the folding tables, fizzing cans of soda sweating in the ice buckets. It was quiet back there compared to the thunder of the pins. I stuffed myself with sugar until my stomach hurt, greedily reaching for another cupcake, as if sweetness could fix my bruised pride. That was when the door creaked, the one that led outside, to the dark strip behind the building. A man was standing there, framed in the faint glow of the parking lot light. He smiled, crouched slightly, and waved me over. "Hey, come outside for a second. I want to show you something." The words should have frozen me. They should have screamed danger. But at 6 years old, the warning drilled into me, "Don't talk to strangers," hadn't rooted deep enough. His voice was soft, coaxing, and my childish mind, dulled by frosting and boredom, told me it was harmless. I followed him outside. The night air smelled of oil and asphalt. He knelt down until his eyes were level with mine, then pointed toward a truck idling just a few yards away. Its engine rumbled low, steady, like a hungry growl. "I've got more sweets in there," he said. "Bags of them. If you help me unload, I'll give you $20. $20. To a 6-year-old, that was treasure. I imagined bragging to the other kids, flashing bills in my tiny hand. I didn't question why the truck was already running, why the black plastic bag on the back seat sagged like it hid something heavy and wrong. I climbed in, my small sneakers squeaking against the leather, my fingers brushing the crinkling bag. That's when the scream cut through the night. It was my mother's voice, ragged and panicked, ripping my name from her throat over and over. She stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the harsh glow of the bowling alley lights, arms reaching, face twisted in terror. The man's hand twitched, hovering near the truck door as if he had a decision to make. For a second, I swear I saw his calm mask slip. A sharp flicker of frustration, like a predator startled mid-hunt. My mom's scream shattered the spell. I bolted, scrambling out of the truck, nearly falling face first onto the asphalt before sprinting into her arms. She caught me and clutched me so tightly it hurt, her chest heaving against mine, her nails digging into my back as if she thought I might vanish if she loosened her grip. Behind us came the sound of tires shrieking, rubber burning against pavement. I twisted just in time to see the truck fishtail, red taillights glowing like eyes before it tore into the night. In an instant, it was gone, swallowed by the dark roads that wrapped around the alley. The man, his smile, his soft coaxing voice, left behind only silence and the echo of my mother's sobs. People poured out of the bowling alley, confused voices rising in a panicked chorus. Parents gathered their kids close. My friend's birthday party dissolved into chaos. Someone pulled the doors shut, locking them as though the truck might circle back. My mom didn't let go of me the whole time, muttering words that were half anger, half prayer. What were you thinking? Why would you go with him? Don't you ever do that again? Her voice trembled so violently that even through my shame I understood how close something terrible had come. The police showed up not long after my dad arrived to take us home. Their flashlights swept across the parking lot, the alley door, the scuffed marks on the asphalt where the tires had screamed away. They questioned my mom, asked for descriptions, wrote everything into a little notepad. She told them about the man's face, the truck's color, the way he crouched like he was trying to make himself small enough to seem safe. I repeated what I remembered. The promise of candy, the crinkling plastic bag, the $20 bribe. But I was 6, and my words tangled with fear. I remember one officer kneeling, looking me right in the eyes. His expression was serious but strangely soft. "You did the right thing running to your mom," he said. "You're safe now." I didn't feel safe. Not then. Not for weeks after. The party ended that night in a haze of tears and murmurs. The bowling alley closed early, staff ushering everyone out, the neon signs above the lanes flickering as if even they were unsettled. The ride home was silent except for my mom's shaky breathing and the muffled sound of my dad's hand tapping the steering wheel too fast, too tight. That night I didn't sleep. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the truck door yawning open, the black plastic bag slumped on the seat like a secret, and that man's hand reaching out for me. The whine of tires replayed in my head, only now I imagine them screeching back, circling the block, headlights cutting through my bedroom curtains. I begged my mom to let me sleep in her bed. She agreed without hesitation, holding me so close it felt like she was trying to fuse my bones with hers. In the days that followed, the questions repeated from the police, from relatives, even from teachers who'd heard the story through whispers. They all asked the same things. What did he look like? What did he say? What color was the truck? Each time I tried to answer, my voice got smaller, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized how close I had come to never answering any question again. Weeks passed, and no one was caught. The description my mom gave wasn't enough. The truck was too common, the man too ordinary. He had melted back into the faceless crowd of strangers the world is full of. That was the most terrifying part. The realization that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like tired men in parking lots, offering candy and cash with a smile. For years, I couldn't walk into a bowling alley without feeling my chest tighten. The smell of grease and waxed lanes dragged me straight back to that night, to the moment I followed him outside, blind to the danger that every adult could see. Even now, as an adult myself, the memory still bites. If I learned anything from that night, it's this. Evil doesn't always snarl. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it kneels down to your height and calls you buddy. And sometimes, all that stands between you and being taken Is a mother's scream sharp enough to cut through your innocence? I think back and realize how close I came to being another story on the news, another photo on a missing poster. Instead, I walked away with a scar inside my head and a lesson burned into my heart. Teach your kids that strangers lie. Drill it into them until it sticks, even when they're too young to understand. Because that one moment of hesitation, that one innocent step toward a waiting truck, can be the difference between life and a silence that never ends. I grew up on a small suburban street on Long Island, not the noisy part of the island, the quieter cul-de-sac where everyone knew whose kid rode which bike. Every summer, the block threw one big party, a neighborhood blowout with folding tables stacked with pies, trays of chicken, and kegs behind the garage. When I was 13, it felt like the whole world. String lights, people laughing, kids darting between legs. My two closest friends that year were Nate and Tommy. We were inseparable at those parties, climbing the inflatable slides and sneaking extra cookies. That Saturday, it was bright all day, the kind of heat that makes soda fizz faster. People were setting up early. The street was blocked off. Lawn chairs lined the curb. By mid-afternoon, the idea of the party being ours had already taken root. The adults relaxed into long conversations while we played baseball on the sidewalk. As evening came, some of the grown-ups moved tables closer together, the music turned up, and the party settled into a friendly, messy hum that promised it would last late. Around 9, Nate and I broke off to play a quick video game on his porch while Tommy chased his dog down the block. When we reappeared an hour later, the house felt different, quieter in a way that didn't fit the noise elsewhere. Tommy told us he'd seen Mark, our other friend, go inside his house ages ago. He's been in there forever, Tommy said, flipping a grape into his mouth like it was nothing. We walked down to Mark's place with the confident, careless swagger of kids who didn't think much could go wrong. His bedroom light was on, the curtain pulled back, and there was someone standing at the window. At first, I thought it was Mark, his outline against the lamp glow. But when we waved, he didn't react. We shouted, the party a distant bass. No answer. The figure at the window had its hands on the sill and its back turned to us, motionless like a statue. I froze. Nate and Tommy were whispering, trying to decide if we should go knock or just leave him be. Then Mark's mom looked up, let out a short, sharp sound, and Mark's dad came running down the driveway. The man at the window turned and disappeared inside with the slow, casual movement of someone who had nowhere to hurry. The crowd thickened, neighbors clustered, questions flying. Mark's dad called the police. He said Mark had been inside, hiding in his closet after seeing a stranger on the stairs. The cops searched the house with flashlights and calls, but they found no one, no intruder, no sign of an entry. It was as if a body had never been there at all. We went home shaken, the street suddenly smaller, our hands sticky with the memory of cookies. I kept thinking of that silhouette at the window, the way it had stood as if it belonged to the house. Sleep was restless. At 2 a.m., thirsty and restless, I slipped downstairs for a glass of water. Through the kitchen curtain, I saw a light I knew well, the porch light across the yard, and beyond it a shadow that shouldn't have been there. It resembled a person, hunched in the glow, motionless like a photograph. I woke my dad up. He came to check and found nothing. Still, Something about the timing. The shadow outside Mark's window and the shadow outside my own kitchen later didn't feel like coincidence. The police arrived with lights painting the houses in red and blue, and for a while the block looked like something out of a TV show. Neighbors on porches, whispers running down the line of lawns, someone with a flashlight directing the officers. I remember the smell of someone's grill smoke drifting through the street, oddly domestic against the metal clink of keys and the stomp of boots. The officers took statements from Mark's parents and from anyone who said they'd seen anything. Flashlights swept the yard, flashlight beams slicing the dark like hesitant knives. They checked every closet, every crawl space, even the attic, but the silence kept it secret. No prints in the soft earth by the flower bed, no scuffs on the windowsill, no smear on the glass. The thing had been as precise as it had been surreal. There, and then not, like a trick of light and memory. Neighbors muttered theories. A lost drunk, a squatter, a prankster. Some clutched their cell phones a little too tight, scrolling through feeds to see if anyone had filmed the moment. Mr. Alvarez from 2 houses down swore he'd seen someone slip between the hedges, but when the officer checked, the bushes were whole, and the city camera a useless grain of grainy footage. The cops left pamphlets about neighborhood watch, and the party broke up with a hollow feeling like someone had taken the rhythm out of it. The tables were folded away in the morning like nothing had happened at all. Mark was quiet for weeks. At school he kept to himself, shoulders higher, eyes skittering to doorways. I'd catch him staring at windows in class, as if expecting to see that silhouette again, and he'd flinch when someone knocked his locker. Once, we dared him to ride his bike past his own house after dark. He didn't laugh. He said later he'd hid in his closet until he'd heard the steps go back down the stairs and the front door shut. That image, Mark pressed behind coats, breath shallow, replayed in my mind until it felt like my memory of something I'd actually lived. A few nights after the party, I woke thirsty and padded downstairs. The kitchen light was a soft circle on the counter. Outside, the security lamp on my neighbor's roof bleached the yard in dull yellow. That's when I saw the shadow. It was simpler than the window figure, just a silhouette against the far fence, elongated and still, like someone standing very, very straight. It didn't move when a car passed on the main road, and the way the porch light hit it made the edges crisp as cut paper. My skin tightened so fast I could taste it. For a wild second I thought of Mark, crouched in his closet, of the man at the bedroom window. The timing didn't sit right in my head. I jolted my dad awake. He shuffled out in boxers, hair wild, squinted at the curtain, then walked the perimeter with a flashlight. He went out into the yard, boots cracking the gravel, and circled the house like a tired predator. He called out, but only his own voice answered. He checked under the porch, checked the side gate, and came back in rubbing his hands like he was waking from a dream. He didn't call the police. I tried to make him understand the geometry of the night, the way the shadow had been, but he shrugged it off as a trick of light or an overactive imagination. Maybe he convinced himself easier than he convinced me. Still, my father's refusal to call it in tasted like betrayal. That night I slept on my back with one eye open. Every creak of the house felt like a footstep. The droning of the refrigerator turned into a far-off whisper. Once, Sometime around 3 in the morning, the kitchen sink tapped twice. 3 soft, precise knocks that sounded like knuckles testing the wood. My breath locked, and my hand went for the baseball bat we kept by the door. I didn't move. I counted heartbeats until dawn disintegrated the dark. In the days that followed, the block treated the event like a scandal to be smoothed over. People joked nervously, trimmed their hedges, locked their cars. The block party never felt quite the same. There were fewer cookies on the tables the next year, fewer kids weaving through the crowd. And every time a light flicked on in the dark of someone's house, my throat closed. I kept seeing that silhouette when I closed my eyes. The hands on the windowsill, the slow, patient tilt of a head, the way an ordinary yard could be watched like a stage. At school, conspiracy theories bloomed. Someone said it was an urban explorer. Someone else suggested a peeping Tom. But none of that explained the shadow at my kitchen curtain later that night, or the way Mark's parents sounded when they told the story. Their voices small and tired. The not knowing lodged itself in my chest like a stone. I promised myself I'd be more careful. Stay with friends at parties. Sleep with the curtain shut. Don't walk home alone after dark. Promises that felt like paper armor against something patient and practiced. The memory of that night refused to fade. Years later, when I think of summer block parties, I don't hear music or smell barbecue. I hear the faint rattle of a window latch, the scrape of a shadow shifting where no one should be. For weeks after, I'd pause before pulling back the kitchen curtain. Sometimes I thought I saw movement in the corner of my eye, a tall frame, still as a mannequin, watching. I tried to convince myself it was nothing more than paranoia born from a single bad night. But deep down, I knew better. Mark confessed one afternoon, months later, that he sometimes woke up to footsteps in his hallway. Soft, steady, like someone pacing outside his bedroom door. His parents brushed it off as the house settling, but Mark said he'd learned to sleep with his closet door cracked, just in case. His voice shook when he said it. I never told him about the tapping at my kitchen, about the shape that stood where the yard light should have cast nothing. I figured if I spoke it aloud it might come back, drawn to the words. But sometimes, in dreams, I still see the man's posture, hands braced on a sill, head tilted slightly, as though listening to the rhythm of the street, not rushing, not hiding, just waiting. And when I wake in the middle of the night, mouth dry, the first thing I do is glance at the curtain over the kitchen window, because one night, I know, there won't just be a shadow. There will be someone smiling back,